So
I'm
I
back.
guess. Oh, hey, what's up?
I switched computers. I'm trying another one.
Okay, let's shift a little bit of gears because I think let's highlight what Synereo's doing and the whole project with the decentralized um, social networking. You guys want to kind of highlight that a little bit for
Sure.
everybody?
Jim, are you there? You've been quiet. You've been kind of quiet. If you're there, man. um, Scenario. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I have this chart. I think it'd be very helpful
Okay.
to share. That way, it kind of gives you an idea of
In a few words, it's a
yeah.
decentralized social network. So instead of having Facebook servers, you run your own node, basically.
Okay.
And you own it, it's yours. You decide what happens on it. All the information on it is yours, and so on. You don't have all of your information going to Facebook or whoever.
Yeah.
You can write custom things to do on it. You control what other nodes it connects to and in what ways and what information gets shared and so on.
Christian, you want to put up that?
Yeah. Do you? I should be sharing it now. Do you see
Okay.
it?
Yeah. Okay.
So you hear this is your typical marketing chart, right? There's Facebook on the left. They're doing everything wrong. We're doing everything right. So a lot of these things are still being built, but essentially the biggest thing here is this attention economy, where we can now say that every single person has a value and it's their attention. So whatever you are attending to, you should be compensated for. So if that is posting a blog post or reading someone's blog post, right? This should all be compensated because this is essentially work you're doing. You're taking a picture or you're posting a song or you're writing an article or whatever it is. There needs to be direct compensation to the user. So you flip the equation on its head, and Facebook started to tap into this idea a little bit, and Facebook was good to 2008. Wow, this is amazing, But now they're trying to do weird things where you have a tip jar. So it's like, oh, you do a post now, okay, tip this person. It's like, okay, great.
As well. So I mean, it's a completely different paradigm of
Yep.
okay, we're Facebook. All of the content that you make, we make money off of first of all, and now we're going to have a tip jar where you can send money to someone else, and we're going to take a cut of that as well. Like,
Right.
okay.
So so in order to get this to scale, that's the big multi-billion-dollar question: is who's going to develop the first scalable blockchain? I wish Greg was on here. He could explain what he's building with some of the guys at Ethereum. But essentially, we have got to build. We've now decided that we have to build our own blockchain for this because you can't have millions and millions of people that are going to be onboarded to a social network. They're all using a cryptocurrency, and that cryptocurrency also has the real-world value because you can exchange it for Bitcoin to fiat or maybe directly to fiat in the future. So you have.
Okay. I think we lost him a little bit.
So far, the biggest thing I feel so far, even without the launch of this network, is the community, because that's how I met Evan. Just flew out to Seattle to meet the CTO, and then we met up at an Ethereum. It was actually at the university, but the point is the amount of people that are coming together to just talk about these issues and try to solve these issues, and meeting those people along the way. It's just great. So that's another element to it.
That's the thing that people are going to have the hardest time with conceptually. So the attention economy consists of two sort of resources: the Rio and amps. And Rio is local, so only your own node really has to care about what that is. And the main thing there is it creates this network of where people are directing their attention. So if somebody pays a lot of attention to the content that someone else is putting on, it broadens the connection. More Rio is flowing there, and it brings them closer in the network.
Yeah, if I could bring up another graph.
Because it's a bit complicated to think of it of applying this Rio connection between two entities and then broadening it to a whole network, decentralized network of everybody is potentially connected to everybody else. We
Yeah.
have a diagram for that.
Yeah.
The core value here is where Facebook would determine what shows up in, for example, your wall, although you can obviously do lots of things with this. Uh, Instead of having an algorithm that just decides, where Facebook can filter things in or out of some of people's walls, the Rio algorithm decides what somebody wants to see, what they'll
Right.
engage with, and then puts that higher in their priority of things that they want to see.
And then you can actually this blew my mind when Greg was explaining it, but you can actually design your own filters. So the Rio's filtering, you got a stream of information from your friend, different posts coming in, all that. But now you can actually build filters, and then you can share those filters with your friends. So you can just get deeper and deeper and deeper into this like filtering process. So that's going to be the future I'm going to wait for.
Imagine the Synereo network is a brain, and each node in it is a
Yeah.
neuron. And certain neurons have really expansive, broad connections with other neurons because they pay a lot of attention and a lot of engagement there.
Mhm.
And other neurons have more tenuous or indirect connections with other neurons because there's less flow going directly between them.
Right. And I was talking to Greg too, and if you really want to get sci-fi, the characteristics of this program that we're developing, or this product, whatever you want to call it, technology, it has characteristics of an AI. So it is possible that this network could learn, and that opens another whole can of worms because once you launch a system that essentially can't be shut down and is now learning, that's Skynet.
It's learning what people want to engage with is what it's learning.
Yeah.
It's a system that, this person engages with this, so therefore, prioritize that. And it continuously is learning how to feed people stuff that they want to see.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the AMP, which is the second resource, which is, I believe it's going to be a cryptocurrency, but currently isn't its own blockchain.
Okay.
And this allows you to spend amps to propagate something out along this network. And so people who have stronger Rio connections, it'll prioritize more, but it still prioritizes along less or more tenuous connections, right? The idea is to efficiently spread something along a network to people who want to engage with that kind of thing that you're promoting.
Evan, I think we have one of your guys here, John Mathis. He just joined us. You want to
That's right.
introduce him?
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
It's going to take him probably a minute to get his mic set up. So
Okay.
the amp is going to be. Yep. Hey, John.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
So yeah, the amp essentially, as I'm saying, it's a token that essentially amplifies the information you want to get out, and then
Crypto asset, so you can
Yep.
transfer it, you can buy it, you can potentially sell it.
right, and yep. So a lot of features there.
Yeah, I mean, when I was researching you guys, I found a lot of your stuff really, really interesting. I like that whole feature about designing your own filters. This is something us as the Minds Panel show really does a lot. So we have two aspects of what we're doing with the Minds Panel show, and basically the whole idea behind what we're doing with the Minds Panel show is once again kind of going to this whole philosophy and ethos of working a decentralized multimedia group of people. And we have our show that we're doing like today, where we have it's more planned out, more standard podcast. But we all through the week we have meetings, but we also turn them into shows, and they're what I'm calling pop-up shows, or they're spontaneous, organic shows. And we spend a lot of time just brainstorming ideas as far as coming up with different features or filters that we want happen, that we would like to see with our page on Minds, or what are the implications of say like our point value system. Like, is it encouraging genuine communication, or is us valuing? So for right now, everything's valued the same. You get the same amount of points for a like, for a comment, or for a remind, but we want to encourage more interaction and more of this, what we're phrasing as comment culture. So we're like, well, shouldn't a comment be valued more than a like, because a like is kind of like passive, and some people kind of, if they want to farm points, they'll just like and like and like and like, and then should we have like a kind of a cap on that? But what does that do? And so this is where we really kind of get crazy with our Minds Panel show and our backroom meetings, and we turn those into shows. But I like that feature where you guys are talking about designing your own filters, and I think this is the great thing about decentralization, but also to, there's to everything's like a cost and effect, like that. It's really hard to kind of like what you were saying earlier, Evan. I think about centralized, you kind of like speed up things, but being decentralized, you kind of like spread out that like processing power or whatever, and you have different ways you could go, and it's kind of this hard balance of trying to find this kind of like golden medium of like, okay, now we need to focus in on like this one kind of topic, or should we kind of keep on going off on this? I find that stuff really interesting. What's going on?
So
Anybody?
just to
Yeah.
touch on the golden medium for all you spirit science guys out there, Synereo is based off a high level of mathematics called pi calculus.
Okay.
So if you really want to get into the whole how this connects back to black holes and
Yeah.
witchcraft and
Here's what I know about
Illuminati,
it makes blockchains way faster. That's all I know.
yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so I think let's start opening it up for just these general kind of ideas, and we'll just start brainstorming or just going with the conversation. So let's kind of touch on. Anybody want to kind of talk about Ethereum or kind of more of decentralization and its possibilities and where you kind of want to see it? Maybe.
I'd like to hear Cryptohustle on this, on Ethereum. I think he's an expert in the cryptocurrency. So
I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to say an expert. There are some probably some developers that are cryptographers are much higher level than myself. But my take on Ethereum, I love Ethereum. I love the fact that you can build all these decentralized apps. I think that obviously the scaling issue comes into play. How big's their blockchain right now? Is it like
we're working with Synereo is working with Ethereum to solve scaling.
okay?
So
Nice.
hopefully within a year they'll have Casper working.
Very
which
cool.
Which is a very short. That's a very aggressive timeline for something that big. But yeah.
Nice. I think like the biggest mistake that I've seen, in the coming out of Ethereum, I don't know who started the meme, but and I know the mainstream media is on, is just kind of like a competitor, like branding it as a competitor to Bitcoin, right? I think that was probably one of its bigger mistakes because, I mean, it's not intended to be. It has a different intention, as far as I understand, of what Bitcoin is, right? And yeah, you could trade Ether like you could any other cryptocurrency or asset, but it's designed.
So the thing about that's what's so interesting about Ethereum, and that's what's so interesting about the community that we have right here on this podcast, because we can you brought up they're trying to divide us. It's very clear. What I mean? And there's so many scammers out there. So many other exchanges trying to make money on speculation, all that. So, as long as we stay unified and we say, look, everyone's got skin in the game on this. Okay, our planet is burning down. All these problems. Like, can we just get over the fact that people are competitors and start cooperating?
Well, I mean, that it's not just like they're like, we want to protect people from the dangers of Bitcoin and crypto, and it's like the potential for smart contracts is to democratize lots of things that were formerly the provinces of large institutions, first of all. And secondly, it has the potential to give so much better consumer protection than ever in history, because it's infallible. You don't even have to, it's not even a factor that somebody could rip someone else off once it's in the blockchain.
Yeah, I kind of want to touch on that whole like divide thing, and this is kind of why it kind of happened kind of synchronistic when I was already developing the show for the cryptocurrency. That's when Christian kind of like reached out to me, and I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds cool. Then when you kind of explained just briefly what you guys were doing, and I was like, okay, so I looked into it. I was like, okay, this is kind of similar into what Minds is doing, and I personally am just curious and excited, and I don't think that as far as being decentralized, open source, that there isn't a competition between each other that we could have uh, a symbiotic relationship, or we should work together, and this collaborative ethos kind of spreads out, and that it's not going to take just one entity to say um, topple over the centralized system. That it's going to take a whole collaboration of multi tools, of multi software and hardware, and that what we're doing right now and what other people that are doing out there is about just right now kind of networking with like-minded people, experimenting with these blockchain technologies, because it's barely in like we're barely even grasping the possibilities of this, and we're in that experimental phase, as Cryptohustle was kind of talking about a little bit with the Bitcoin, but on the large scale of how we could possibly um, see this being implemented, and that we could learn a lot from each other. Like earlier before the show started, well, I was saying how I was watching your Synereo hangouts, and I was like, oh, that's kind of like what we're doing with the Minds panel show, and you said, oh, you guys watched the Mind panel show, and you said, oh, we should do something like what they're doing, and that there's this feedback and this great kind of energy that we could all we learn a lot more when we kind of like cooperate with each other, when we work together, and we have this feedback going back and forth.
That's right.
The real feature of the open source, like the old regime would be, you know, we're doing similar things, therefore we are competitors, and we must expunge one another from the face of the earth. It's like, I don't know, I mean, if we're open source, if we're really decentralized, then that's not just, you know, we're going to own everything and it's going to be decentralized our way. It's going to be a whole bunch of services coexisting and working together to make this large decentralized system with diverse services in addition to just one decentralized service.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. It's like our all this competition in the crypto community. I mean, we're only a few million users really using this. It's like my hand attacking my foot, you know. I think there's a lot of tribalism happening in all these different camps, and even in Bitcoin right now, you know, there's all these camps and variations and versions of Bitcoin, and it's gotten so political that really, I mean, I personally, like, I haven't been entertaining that at all. I pay attention to what's going on as far as the divide and the politics and stuff, but I don't contribute to it. I won't address it. I'm not going to write about it. I just don't really want to feed it that much energy because you know, we're all kind of working, and I believe most of us are working towards the same goal, towards, you know, trying to decentralize more and more services.
I think we for what that means, because I think we're all on the same page about the change from having a centralized service competing against another centralized service to the meaning of we're going to allow, you know, open source. Everybody can get it for free. Decentralizing, diversifying. You can't compete with us. You can only join us.
Yeah, exactly.